If she considers herself a non-African Latino, then that helps explain. If she considers herself a non-African Latino, that helps explain why she found it so acceptable to call our sister a blue monkey.
You're acting like you're the first woman that's left with 2 children. I've been doing it for 14 years.
I've been doing it for 16.
Okay, with your son, I don't like you.
That bitch should have died. You want to mention my kid? You should have died, bitch. You monkey. You blue monkey.
I give a about my people. You feel what I'm saying? All my people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got 3 black daughters. I got a black son. I'm black. My mama black. I got a couple mamas that are black. You know what I'm saying? My dad is black. Both of my dad is black. My grandparents black. Everybody is black in my neck of the woods. Both of my baby mamas black. So I do feel a certain kind of way when somebody says something like a monkey. You know what I'm saying? I do feel that. I feel that because when it comes to a monkey, they done had us sitting in zoos. They done had black people like men and women sitting in zoos like monkeys back in the day. So I get that.
And not only do you owe her an apology, you owe all black women an apology. In fact, you owe all black people an apology for that racial slur. Brothers and sisters, I didn't want to have to do this live tonight, but I got an overwhelming amount of requests asking me to speak briefly on this situation involving Sister Erica Mena and the other queen whose name I don't know, our beautiful chocolate sister, in the Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, I believe it is. I don't follow the show. I don't watch the show. I don't believe reality shows are constructive uses of African time. I think reality shows are designed to desecrate the public reputation of black women and black men, but especially black women. Because gangster rap has done a good enough job desecrating the public image of black men. So they basically use the reality shows to desecrate the image of black women. But from what I've read online and from what I've been sent, there was an argument that took place during the filming or backstage or on the set of Hip Hop Atlanta, where Sister Erica called the other queen a blue monkey, a reference to the blue hair that the sister had. And she called her a monkey, a blue monkey. Now, when we talk about the use of monkey as a racial slur against African people, when we talk about the use of monkey as a racial slur against African people, when we talk about the use of monkey as a racial slur against African people, the argument can be made that there is no worse of a racial slur you can use against an African other than the N-word than to call them a monkey. If we look at the propaganda of racism, white supremacy, if we look at the propaganda of racism, white supremacy, and how it has been used against African people, I think most of us would probably agree that the only thing worse than being called a monkey is to be called the N-word. And some Africans would argue that being called monkey may be worse. Some Africans would argue being called monkey may be worse or as bad as being called the N-word. Now, Sister Erica, I don't know you, and I have no intention of disrespecting you. Brother Safari, I understand this is your ex-wife. Sister Erica, I hope you find it within your heart, if you consider yourself a woman, once you regain your composure, you need to find that sister and you owe her an apology. You owe her a sincere, heartfelt apology. Whether she accepts it or not is another story, but you had no right. You had no right to call a black woman a monkey. I'm sure you wouldn't approve of white people calling you a monkey to your face. And you had no right to call that sister that. And not only do you owe her an apology, you owe all black women an apology. In fact, you owe all black people an apology for that racial slur. Now, Sister Erica might argue, and some of you might argue, why does she owe an apology to all African people for calling one sister a monkey? I'll tell you why. Racially pejorative terms, racially insensitive words, bigoted language was systematically used to dehumanize African people. The N-word was systematically used to dehumanize African people. Monkey was systemically used to dehumanize African people. You cannot personalize the N-word. You cannot personalize or contextualize calling someone monkey. You can't do that. When a white person calls a single black person the N-word, they're calling all black people the N-word because these bigoted terms were used to systemically dehumanize all of us. You cannot personalize and you cannot contextualize racial slurs. You cannot. Anyone who claims you can is being disingenuous. You cannot personalize or contextualize those words that have systemically been used to denigrate African people. From Africa to Alabama, from Birmingham, England to Brooklyn, New York, from Brazil to Botswana. There's no way, from France to Florida, there's no way you can personalize or contextualize a systemic racial slur. So, Sister Erica, I'm glad you were fired. You deserved to get fired for that, for embarrassing yourself and dishonoring your race. Now, some of you are saying, Sister Erica does not identify as a black woman. I couldn't care less whether she identifies as a black woman. She is a black woman. And so I'm dealing with this issue as an intra-African racial issue. Because whether she hates her blackness, and if she does, if she considers herself a non-African Latino, then that helps explain if she considers herself a non-African Latino, that helps explain why she found it so acceptable to call our sister a blue monkey. Because if she has disidentified from the African race, if she sees herself as something other than African, although she could never deny her roots, because anyone who looks at her would never mistake Sister Erica for anything but a black woman. You do not look Chinese, Sister Erica. You do not look Caucasian, Sister Erica. You do not look Arab, Sister Erica. You do not look like a Native American. You do not look like a Mexican. And you don't even look like a Latino. You are an Afro-Latino at the very least. So you can play the I ain't black game all you want. And if you keep it up, white folks are going to end up calling you exactly what you called that sister. Because there's nothing worse than a Negro who's trying to pass for something other than African to get a European wake-up call from a racist on the street or at the job. So you could keep on playing games all you want. You will get a wake-up call. And for my politically uneducated Negroes in the chat, for my politically uneducated Negroes in the chat who are saying she's Latino, not black, need I remind you, Latino is not a race? To you politically stupid, uneducated, socially dysfunctional Negroes in the chat, need I remind you, Latino is not a race. There's no such thing as Latino or black. Latino is not a race. This is why we need political education class. Latino is an ethnicity. It is a culture. It is not a race. You can be white Latino. You can be Afro Latino. That's exactly why when you fill out the census forms, they ask you to clarify whether you are black Latino or white Latino, because Latino is not a race. You stupid, uneducated idiots. It is an ethnicity and a culture. There are Latinos darker than me. There are American Africans lighter than Latinos. Puerto Rico and Cuba were two of the largest slave destination ports in the so-called New World during slavery. The only difference between Dominicans, Cubans, Puerto Ricans, and the rest of us is they were taught Spanish and we were taught English. In Brazil, they were taught Portuguese. That's the only difference. Which white slave master's language you were taught. That's it. That's it. Now, I'm not ignoring the fact that we have a lot of Latinos who hate their African blood. It's a fact. Not all Afro-Latinos hate their African blood, but a good deal of them do. And some of them have been so brainwashed and hypnotized by their pale skin that they think they can run away from their Africanity as well. But if there's any Afro-Latinos who doubt whether or not you're African, just ask a white person if they consider you to be Spanish. Spanish is not a race. Spanish is a language, and a Spaniard is a white person from Spain. You are not a Spaniard, and Spanish is a language. So what is your race? But I digress. I'm not here to talk about my Afro-Latinos, who I love. I'm here to talk about conflict within African people based on skin color. Sister Erica's comment, the blue monkey comment, I'm willing to bet she was not even conscious when she made that statement. I'm willing to bet that Sister Erica's unconscious produced that comment independent of her rational thought. You know how I know this? Because when someone is angry, their unconscious speaks without notice. When you are angry, your ego drops your filter. And that's why things said in anger are often quite true, just like things said when you are intoxicated, because there is no filter. There is no conscious intent to control your true feelings. And see, we also have to have a conversation about the collective Black unconscious. Let's talk about the collective unconscious for a minute. Because you do know you have a personal unconscious and you have a collective unconscious. Black people, we have a collective unconscious, just like white people have a collective unconscious. And part of the European collective unconscious is the use of the N-word. Any white person who says they have never used or thought of the N-word, any white person on the planet Earth who says they have never used the N-word or thought of using the N-word is a liar. Is a liar. Because the N-word is so deeply ingrained in European culture, it's probably the most popular racial term in the collective unconscious of the European. And guess what? Sister Erica, her comment came from the collective unconscious of African people. Some of you on this chat right now, some of you hypocrites on this chat right now are guilty of calling other African people monkey under your breath. You are guilty of calling other African people monkey behind their back. You are guilty of calling other African people monkey in your mind, although you never verbally articulated it. You know why? Because everything in the European unconscious is automatically in the American African unconscious, because they were our enslavers. They were our colonizers, and they are still your employers and systemic conditioners. So although Sister Erica used the word, that word monkey exists in the collective unconscious of Black people. And I really feel right now, I really feel for my chocolate sisters right now. I really feel for my chocolate queens right now. My light-skinned queens do catch hell. They do. Light-skinned little girls, they get beat up for being light-skinned, having green eyes, curly hair. Light-skinned people go through it. They do. They do. But we would be telling a lie if we tried to act like. We would be telling a lie if we tried to act like. We would be telling a lie if we tried to act like light-skinned people suffer anywhere near as much as dark-skinned women. We would be telling a lie. My light-skinned queens, my African vanilla queens, you know I love you. My African lemonade queens, you know I love you. My African pina colada, you know I love you. But let's be honest. And I'm not dismissing the discrimination you face within our community and outside our community. I am not dismissing it. I'm simply saying that the hell chocolate women suffer from doesn't come anywhere near what light-skinned queens suffer from, doesn't come anywhere near what our dark-skinned, richly melanated, beautiful Black sisters suffer from. Within the African queendom, globally, because this is a Pan-Africanist problem, within the African queendom globally, there are serious issues of skin tone. Serious issues of skin tone. And when I talk to black women, light, brown, or dark, when I talk to black women, light, brown, or dark, when I talk to black sisters, light, brown, or dark, they tell me in confidence. I've had black women tell me, Dr. Umar, my light-skinned girlfriends only keep me around because they need somebody to feel superior to. The light-skinned sisters tell me, Dr. Umar, you got to work on the self-esteem of the dark-skinned queens because some of them only want us around so they are more socially accepted. You can even tell amongst black women, a lot of black women hang out in skin color coded social groups. A lot of black women hang out in skin color coded social groups. You see the chocolates together. There might be an honorary light skinned queen in there. You usually see the light skins together. There might be an honorary dark skinned queen in there. But let us be honest. Black women are plagued with light skin supremacy and dark skin supremacy issues. Absolutely plagued by it. And y'all need to confront it because black women are suffering because y'all do not have a strong, spiritually grounded social network for black women. For all the talk of your feminism, for all the talk of your sisterhood, there are very few spaces where black women can go and be around other black women where they are not being judged, condemned, gossiped about, or slandered. Let's be honest about it. Black men, we don't really have light skin issues with each other. When you see brothers, it'll be dark, it'll be brown, it'll be light. Brothers don't have the same hangups. Some brothers do. Not everybody is free of skin color issues. Not everybody is free of colorism, but more black men, I would argue, are much more comfortable, much more unconcerned about other men's skin tone, unlike the women. Amongst black women, it is a major issue. Skin tone amongst sisters is a major issue. It is not as bad amongst men, but it does exist. But it does exist. But let me tell you where black men are very guilty of participating in and perpetuating the skin color wars amongst our sisters. Let me tell you how black men are responsible. How we do, brothers, participate in the skin color wars against our sisters. Black men have a very serious light skin supremacy bias when it comes to dating within the race. We already know you got a snow bunny bias. We already know you got a snow bunny bias. We already know you got a snow bunny bias, but I'm talking about within the community. Within the community, black men, I see it every day. I see it all the time. I see it amongst so-called woke, so-called conscious, so-called Pan-Africanists. Black men have a serious, and this is global. I see it in Africa. I see it in Europe. I see it in the Caribbean. I see it in Central and South America. It's all across the states. Black men have a very serious light skin supremacy bias when it comes to mating, dating, marrying, and engaging our women. And any black man who denies that is a liar and a fool. It is bad. In fact, I think the black man's bias for light-skinned women is worse than the colorism against our sisters towards one another. I think the black man's bias for yellow and light skin is worse than our sisters' color issues between each other. And I would argue that the black man's preference for yellow skin underscores the conflict within the queendom. The black man's bias for yellow skin underscores the conflict within the queendom. It's a damn shame that after 400 years, you still got black men running around here saying they only date light-skinned women. Now, I was a Chris Brown fan, and I still like Chris Brown. But I'm hearing rumors that Chris Brown had some negative things to say about my dark-skinned sisters. I'm hearing some rumors that Chris Brown had some very disrespectful comments to make about dark-skinned women. And Mr. Sean Carter, Jay-Z, you don't get no pass. Mr. Sean Carter, Jay-Z, you don't get no pass. I remember your early music was filled with slanderous and disrespectful comments about dark-skinned women. In fact, most of our gangster rappers are responsible. Most of our hip-hop artists are responsible for promoting light-skin supremacy in the black community. The rap videos are filled with yellow and pale skinned sisters. The content of rap lyrics is filled with anti-dark skin messages. I still remember hearing Jay-Z say clear as day, I only like the wavy light-skinned girls. I only like the wavy, light-skinned girls. So let me ask you a question, Mr. Sean Carter, and I'm not picking on you, bro. I respect you. But did you marry Beyonce primarily because she was yellow? If Beyonce was dark-skinned, would she be your wife? If Beyonce was a chocolate queen, would she be your wife? We're going to keep it all the way 100 tonight. We're going to keep it all the way 100 tonight. And I'm not demonizing my light-skinned family, because you have dark-skinned Africans, some of whom practice a black skin supremacy. So it gets cut. The cake gets cut both ways. I'm wondering how long it's going to take for us to give it all up. I'm wondering how long it's going to take for us to give it all up. I remember up until a couple years ago, I said I would only marry a dark-skinned sister. Up until a couple years ago, I said I would only marry a dark-skinned queen, because I saw working in the schools how dark-skinned little girls were mistreated and treated. I saw firsthand in the media, even within my family, how darker skinned relatives were ignored and overlooked for brown and lighter skin. And so I said, I'm going to fix this. My queens will be chocolate. And then I had to check myself. It took me a couple years, but my ancestors forced me to check myself. Because in saying I'm going to only marry a chocolate queen, now I'm practicing reverse discrimination. I'm practicing reverse discrimination. I'm practicing reverse discrimination. And the way I know that the light-skin, dark-skin supremacy is so big an issue amongst our sisters is I regularly get comments from light-skinned sisters. Regularly. Book signing line, social media, professional conversation, photo session at the end of the lecture. I regularly get comments from light-skinned sisters who say, I'm too light for you. I will never have a chance at being your wife. I'm too light for you. I'm not dark enough. And I'm trying to understand, why do light-skinned black women think Dr. Umar is a black skin supremacist? I have never ever preached dark skin supremacy. I have never ever preached light skin supremacy. So I don't know where my fair-skinned sisters get this idea that they would be passed over by me because they are light. Pan-Africanism rejects all forms of tribalism. Pan-Africanists, true Pan-Africanists, not the fake phony kind that you know, but true Pan-Africanists, we do not discriminate based on skin tone. We discriminate based on consciousness. We discriminate based on commitment to the struggle. We discriminate based on loyalty to the race. I wouldn't give a damn if my wife was the lightest looking green-eyed bandit you ever seen in your life, as long as she was African and loyal to the struggle. And at the same time, I wouldn't care if my wife was the bluest, blackest, purplest, biggest nosed, biggest lipped, nappiest haired, beautiful black woman you ever seen. I don't live my life based on skin tone. I will not teach our boys at the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy to ever, I better never hear one of them say something derogatory about dark skin or light skin. I had a sister tell me her mother told her, this was a dark brown skinned sister, about my complexion. She told me her mother told her that light skinned black women are nasty. They don't clean themselves. Why? Who the hell started that rumor? Who the hell started that rumor? And then the light-skinned women got rumors going around saying the dark-skinned women are smelly. The dark-skinned women say the light-skinned women are nasty. What are we doing to each other? What are we doing to each other? You know, the Honorable Marcus Garvey said something once. The most honorable Marcus Garvey said something once 100 years ago. You know what Garvey said? The Honorable Marcus Garvey said, the colorism within the black community, the racism within the black community exceeds the racism directed at the black community. Did y'all hear what I said? Did y'all hear? Garvey said the racism we practice against ourselves is worse than the racism practiced against us. Now, some of you want me to stop talking about this. You're saying things like, why is this necessary? You know why it's necessary? Because Negroes like you, who would rather sweep it under the rug so it is never exposed and dealt with. Insecure, coward-ass ninjas like you, who are guilty of light-skin supremacy, guilty of dark-skin supremacy. You don't want me to talk about it because you know you practice it. Your family practices it. Your mother practices it. Your father practices it. Your fraternity practices it. Let's be honest, Black Greek fraternities. Let's be honest for a minute, Black Greek fraternities, and I support Black Greek fraternities. I'm not a member, but I support my Alpha brothers. I support my Omega brothers. I support my Sigma brothers. I support my Kappa brothers, my Iota brothers, my Groove Phi Groove brothers. I support my Alpha Kappa Alpha and my Delta Sigma Theta and my Sigma Gamma Rho and my Zeta Phi Beta. I support it. But let us be honest. Once upon a time, you couldn't join none of them if you couldn't pass a brown paper bag test. Let me say it again. Let me say it again. Once upon a time, you could not be a member of the Divine Nine if you did not pass a brown paper bag test. And to this day, some chapters of some of those fraternities and sororities still practice a strict paper bag rule. You got black church congregations that are organized along the color line. You got black churches right now, you walk in, everybody all chocolate, everybody all caramel, or everybody all light skinned. You got black nationalist organizations. Oh yeah, we're going to keep it all the way 100. We're going to keep it all the way 100 tonight. You got black nationalist organizations who claim to love black people, who claim to be about black power. And when you look at the color of their membership, oh yes, I'ma go there. Oh yes, I'ma go there. There's black nationalist organizations who claim to be about black power and black upliftment, but when you look at the color of their membership, you rarely find chocolate Africans in this so-called progressive black organization. Oh yes. You got black nationalist leaders who are light-skinned supremacists. Oh yes. Oh yes. And we can talk about light-skinned supremacists and dark-skinned supremacists, but guess what? We even got hair texture supremacy in the African race. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. We got hair texture bias in the black community. So a sister might be light-skinned, but if she got that Dr. Umar grade, if she got that Ifatunde Ninja Bush grade, she might still not be allowed in the social group because your skin is light, but your hair is too curly. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And depending on the bougie ass social group you belong to, depending on the bougie ass black nationalist organization you belong to, depending on the bougie ass fraternity or sorority chapter you belong to, you might get in being dark skinned with straight hair before you get in being light skinned with nappy hair. I said you might get in being dark skinned with straight hair before you get in for being light skinned with nappy hair. And you know what's sad about all this? And do you know what's sad about all this? We have Neanderthals invading the feed. This is a conversation amongst Africans. If you are not a member of the African race, snow bunnies, I'm going to respectfully ask you to disengage from the chat. This is not a conversation that you need to be a part of. Bunnies, be out. Bunnies, be out. Neanderthal ice-dwelling cavemen. This is not a chat for you. I'm going to respectfully ask that you exit left as well. Anyone on here who does not consider themselves African, including black people, my pretendian community, this is not for you because you don't consider yourself one of us. You are a pretendian. You can exit left. You can exit left. All I'm not from Africa Negroes, please get off the chat. This is not for you. Now, somebody mentioned Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois. Somebody mentioned Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, and it is true. He was a light-skinned supremacist. And I believe one of the reasons Du Bois hated Garvey so much is because Garvey, as a chocolate Jamaican-born African, was able to wrestle away from Du Bois the throne of American African leadership, even though he had Dr. Umar grade hair and chocolate skin. And W.E.B. Du Bois felt, because he was closer to the European standard of beauty, he had a right to lead black people. And speaking of black leadership, can we be honest for a minute? Whether we're talking secular black leadership or whether we're talking religious black leadership, whether we're talking secular black leadership or whether we're talking religious black leadership, let us be honest. 85% of all popular black leaders in American history, 85% of all popular black leaders in American history could pass the brown paper bag test. Elijah Muhammad could pass the brown paper bag test. Minister Farrakhan could pass the brown paper bag test. Dr. King could pass the brown paper bag test. Malcolm could pass the brown paper bag test. Huey P. Newton could pass the brown paper bag test. The Honorable Frederick Douglass could pass the brown paper bag test. The only major leader, the only one of a mass movement who did not pass that brown paper bag test was His Excellency. His Excellency, the prophet and king of Pan-Africanism, the most honorable Marcus Garvey. Every other major leader we had, even now. Who's the president of the NAACP? Who's the president of the Urban League? Look at Al Sharpton. Look at Jesse Jackson. I'm not knocking them for their color, brothers. We all family. I'm simply saying that black people, we also practice light skin supremacy when it comes to leadership. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Look at the wives of most of our scholars. Look at the girlfriends of most of our scholars. Look at the queens of most of the young men in the conscious community. Look at them. Look at the women they are with. I'm not knocking them. I'm not knocking their women. But 90% of all so-called black conscious men are with a light-skinned sister. Are you telling me there's no dark-skinned queens around? Are you telling me it's a pure coincidence? It's a pure coincidence that 90% of your woke YouTubians, 90% of your major black leaders, 90% of your pastors are all light-skinned and their spouses are light-skinned, and you want Dr. Umar to believe this is a pure coincidence? Get your ass up out of here. Get your ass up out of here. I did not create light-skin, dark-skin supremacy, but I will expose it. And let me say this. Let me say this. As we work towards the grand opening of the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, let me say this as we work towards the grand opening of the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. Frederick Douglass was light. Marcus Garvey was dark. Frederick Douglass was light. Marcus Garvey was dark. Frederick Douglass was light. Marcus Garvey was dark. My point is, if you plan on attending the grand opening of the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, if you plan on being a volunteer, if you plan on being an employee, if you plan on coming to the Conscious Singles Convention, if you plan on coming to the Black Women's Convention, if you plan on coming to the Black Men's Convention, the Black Youth Convention, the Pan-African Conferences, the Ex-Offender Seminars, the Black Farmer Seminars, Black Investment Seminars, you better never break your breath. You better never let me find out you made a joke about a light-skinned African, a dark-skinned African, or a mixed race African. I will not tolerate it. The Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy is a safe space for all Africans. I don't care how light the skin. I don't care how light the eyes. I don't care how dark the skin. I don't care how dark the eyes. I don't care how broad the nose, how broad the lips, or how nappy the hair. When you step foot on that campus, you are stepping foot in a true Pan-Africanist community. And if you disobey the rules of heaven on earth, if you violate a single person on my campus because of hair texture or skin color, dark or light, your ass will be in the Book of Negroes. And guess what? The Book of Negroes doesn't discriminate based on skin color. We got all kind of ninjas in the Book of Negroes. We got light-skinned Negroes in the Book of Negroes. We got dark-skinned ninjas. We got mixed race ninjas. And speaking of mixed race, because that's the ultimate when you deal with colorism, I want all mixed race Africans to know I accept you as one of us as long as you identify full-time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 31 days a month, 365 days a year as an African. There is no difference for Pan-Africanists, whether you're mixed race or full race. Black is black, but you better check your light skin supremacy. You better make sure your white mother, your white father didn't condition colorism into your personality, because if you slip up, you will end up in the Book of Negroes. And some of you got problems with mixed race Africans. Some of you can't stand mixed race brothers. Some of you can't stand mixed race sisters. Well, you should better not come to our school, because the first time you disrespect one of my mixed race brothers or sisters, your ass will be in the Book of Negroes. There's just one more thing I want to say. And I have 90 seconds on Instagram. Black women, when are y'all going to get over your petty differences? Black women, when are y'all going to stop gossiping behind each other's backs? Black women, when are you going to stop competing for beauty? Stop competing for materialism. Stop competing for men. Black women, y'all need each other. When are y'all going to grow up? I want to know, when are black women going to grow up when it comes to dealing with black women? Why are y'all so divisive? Why are y'all so color-coded? Why are y'all so petty? Why are y'all so secretly jealous of each other? Secretly envious of each other? When are black women going to stop the bullshit? This is Dr. Umar Fatunde, live from Brussels, Belgium. Tomorrow, I tour the city. Sister Erica, you owe black people an apology. Don't you ever again in your life, woman, call another black woman a monkey. Your ancestors are very displeased with your conduct. Black women, I pray y'all get it together before it is too late.